Whoa, hello friends, I'm David Vose. Really good to see everybody today. And it's a beautiful day in Texas. I hope you're having a wonderful day where you are. Well, this is number 2. I had a lot of people contact me in one way or another and tell me how disappointed they were that I didn't get into the flat earth. And I also had quite a few people saying, oh, we're glad you came around, Dave. We've been believing and knowing that the earth was flat for all this time and you finally come around. No, I don't believe the earth is flat. And I think I told you that, you guys, that in the video quite a few times, that I do not believe the earth is flat. In fact, it's quite impossible for the earth to be flat, and I'm going to show you that. That's one aspect of this that I want you to really pay attention to, especially I know there are people out there that really do believe the earth is flat. And I don't blame you, because how would you know? And since our world, our scientists, and everything that's going on in this world is lying to us, as I've said, everything's a lie. You know, the insanity of thinking that they're going to put this big, huge rocket and strap a plane on its side, right? Just think about the insanity of this. Strap a huge, fat, heavy, twice as big as 747 or some darn thing, strap it on the side of a missile or some kind of rocket, and just, I mean, it's just big to do down there in Houston or wherever they shoot them off. And they're going up and everybody's out there around the circle watching, you know, singing Kumbaya. We're going to the moon, right? This thing's just a huge fire shooting out everywhere with rocket fuel. And they're gonna travel. They think that with this means they're going to get somewhere. You see, just like our bodies, the world is our home. And there is very few ways you can get out of your body. You can't, actually. You can astral project, but you're not really leaving your body. You're always connected to your body as long as you're alive. Okay, now we're talking about being alive. And when we're leaving the earth, we're talking about being alive so we can come back. As long as you want to stay in this world and live in this world, you ain't leaving this world unless you're able to just simply astral project or something of that nature. Because this is your home. This is where you reside. Now, there's a reason for that. We're going to get into this because, you see, what we're going to find out, and I don't want to spoil it right off the bat, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but there's a reason why you really can't leave your body, because your body is literally a part of you. Let's put it that way. Your body, just like this earth, is really and literally a part of it. It is us. So to say we're going to leave the earth and go to another world means we're going to stop being us. And that wouldn't make any sense. So, well, Dave, you said that the Anunnaki came here from Sirius, from Nibiru, and so forth. Well, yes, I did. And the Sumerian tablets describe this. They describe their travels. They describe their ships and everything. But remember, if you remember your science lessons in school, you'll remember that most of the stars are light years away. I mean, many light years. He said, well, Joel, what's that mean? It means that if you travel at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second, oh, buddy, sound can travel at like 600 miles an hour. Okay? This is 186,000 miles in 1 second. So if you're traveling at the speed of light, first of all, if you traveled at the speed of sound with some contraption, you'd probably fall apart, right? You remember Evel Knievel going through the desert on this thing, trying to go 200 miles an hour, and the thing just falls apart and busts up. the engine explodes or whatever. I mean, come on, it's hard to achieve high speed because of the fact that the physical universe cannot withstand these kinds of things. That's just a couple 300 miles an hour or something. Remember the space shuttle that, what is it, Enterprise, or I can't remember the one that, I can't think of the word, the one that blew up in front of everybody and all these supposed astronauts died and everything in front of everybody. But now, imagine going the speed of light. Okay, first of all, Einstein says if you travel the speed of light, you become light. You literally warp into light. Well, that's kind of a nice way of saying it. The truth is, you just burn up. But long before you even get to the speed of light, there isn't any metal or any substance on the face of this earth or any other earth in the universe that is so strong that it can withstand light, because light is the very substance of everything. Light refracts and it arcs, and therefore it makes colors. It separates its qualities into variables. And then, we're going to discuss that a little bit further too. But light is not just the substance of all the color, but it's the substance of all things. This is why when you have the sun come up, things start to grow. Okay, so light is the substance of all this physical. Light is knowledge. Light is information. How can light be knowledge? Well, look at your computer. There's programs. Well, programs are little, what? What is a program? It's this little bitty chip, all this information. What's in there? Zeros and ones? Kinda. That's just a principle, though. It's just a concept. It's like 2 and 2 is 4. What's a 2? It's just a symbol that we use to understand the quality and the quantity. Quantity is a concept. It isn't a little mark on the paper. Okay, light doesn't have space, so it doesn't contain any physicality. Equals mc squared. Matter into energy, energy back into matter. There is no physical to the world. The world is just light. It's just energy. There's no physical. And so there's no ones and zeros in reality. That's just concepts. We're concepts. Principles is the universe. That's what we've been discussing this for months, about how the Bible says that the physical universe is simply temporary, or, okay, you could use the word illusion, as the Eastern religions say. It's an illusion. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means it doesn't exist in physical. It exists as a principle. And the principles are eternal, so it always exists, and you can use your mind to create your own universe. So, if you tried to go then the speed of light so you could even get to the stars. Now remember, if the star is 50 light years away, or 100 or 1,000 light years, some of the stars are, 20, 40, 50 1,000 light years away. If you travel the speed of light, if you could possibly do that, see, but you can't, because you just turn back into energy. Then you would literally be traveling to that star for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. It's impossible. And no matter how advanced technologically, you still cannot do it, because the very principles of this existence prohibit you. It's just like saying, well, can God build a rock too big for himself to lift? No, because the Bible says it's impossible for God to lie. There's one thing God cannot do. He cannot. Why couldn't he? He's God. He can do anything he wants, right? No, he does not lie. This is impossible, okay? And he does not deceive. But I really begin to now. I thought I'd just pop on here and explain this in about 30 minutes, but I'm beginning to think now this could actually turn into another video. But I am going to tell you whether the earth is round or flat, or what shape it is, and how we know this in this video. But there's probably going to be a lot of stuff left unsaid, and we may have to say a little bit more in another video. But I need to cover this very, very carefully, one step at a time, so that you understand where we're living, why we're here, what's going on, what is the shape of our world. Oh boy, we're going to talk about some things that's going to really blow your mind. Things that are only now just beginning to be talked about by scientists and things that were spoken of clearly thousands of years ago in the Vedas, in ancient texts, in the scriptures, but in symbol form. So this knowledge was known to the ancients. They came here in ships. You say, well, you just said they couldn't do that. Because that star is thousands of light years away, or hundreds of light years away, it represents something that's not in this time, nor in our space. Time and space, then, is a concept. Like we've been saying, everything else is a concept. The fact that human beings that we're even able to talk about this proves that we are children of the living God. We are gods. We are capable, but not very likely at this point. But we have potential. Just as the advanced beings that came before us, who came from Sirius and came here, we are at the brink of this knowledge, this freedom, the glorious freedom of the children of God, the Apostle Paul says. Oh boy, the whole creation groaneth and travail until now, waiting for the revealing of the children of God. And his Spirit bears witness with ours that we are children of the living God. Oh, we're going to get into a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of scientists today are starting to say, oh, the whole universe is a hologram. Yes, that I'll agree with. I've been saying that. But now you've got a bunch of scientists saying, well, it's just a simulation. Remember the movie Matrix? It wasn't real. No, I don't agree with that. See, we're not living in a simulation. You need to, understand this, that this is real. Because your thoughts are real. They're not physical. You can't touch them. You can't touch your thoughts. It's an experience that we're living in. This is how we live. This is how we spend our time in the universe. This is how we exist. We can contemplate variables. We can conceive and conceptualize, and we can invent and create everything around us. And we can keep those creations permanent. We can tear it down and start over again. Doesn't mean it's not real. I built this house, but then I tore it down and I burned it. Well, it wasn't real then. No, it was real, but we decided to build another house. So we live in a house, and Jesus said, I go to prepare a house for you. He said, my Father's house, there's many houses. And he's talking about the universe, and they've already made the universe. Our Father in heaven, including ourselves, part of this plural Elohim, we've already, time immemorable, we've already been there before the founding of the world, and we've already decided, and this is a place that we're down here learning. So it's not like, we may have a little amnesia right now. We may not know what we're doing at the moment. We may be in ignorance. But everything around us is real. Let me put it that way. It's just we don't know what to do with it. We purposely came here and put a veil over our minds so that we didn't remember everything that we really are, all of our potential. Because we chose to live in a world where we could have a little bit of learning process, where we could observe things. And we're going to talk about a lot of things, how scientific principles are being carried out today about observing particles, and they become particles. When you don't observe them, they're waves. We're going to talk about how this affects prayer, what belief is, because we talked about that. Belief is one of our long series about miracles and prayers, and I want to go back into that just a little bit, because once we learn this, we're going to know whether these things they're telling us is a lie. I'm going to go to the board here, and I'm going to show you some stuff about our world and the shape that it actually is. But let me give you a little thought, all right, before we move forward a little bit, just to give you an idea of just how big the lie is. And then you might be able to deduce from that just how much we've been lied to. What color is the sky? Most of you are going to say blue. Okay, well, I want you to go and do an experiment. I want you to go outside and look across the street and maybe a house next door or some trees or a mountain. Look way into the distance. Look at a mountain. Now, if the air was blue, how in the world would you be able to see so clearly? It's like a perfect clear lens. The atmosphere, you can look at air right in front of you and see that it's not blue. So, well, it's, maybe when you get a lot of air together and you get back and you look at it, that way it's blue. No. It's clear. There's no color. Color comes from the sun, and the sun is light. And when the light shines through the atmosphere, when it's overhead and it shines down that way, it refracts the sunlight in such a way that it only shows you the blue in the rainbow. But when the sun gets at the horizon, it's refracting from a different angle. So there's more of from your eye to the sun is a different angle than straight up. And therefore it refracts that light into a different color. And therefore it goes through all the colors. So the sky is all of the colors. Most of the day it's blue. But as the evening sets, it starts going into yellows and reds and into purple. Sometimes pink. It goes through all the colors. But before it gets to yellow, it's going to be green, see, because it was blue and then it gets to greenish. But it's really, doesn't take, if you don't watch very carefully, you never hardly see the green. But it goes through all of the colors all the way down to the violet. And then it goes down and it gets dark. So the sky is not blue. What about the water, the ocean? Isn't it blue? How many of us have gone out into a lake and looked at the lake and it's all blue? And I don't mean a muddy one, but a clear, beautiful mountain lake. Doesn't it look blue? Well, there are two factors there. Number one, the same thing that we mentioned about the sunlight refracting differently. So when the sunlight is up above, when the sun is up above and it goes straight down through the water, it might look blue. But also there's another thing going on. The water is like a mirror, and so it mirrors everything that's above it. And that's why if you go to a mountain lake, you'll see that if you look at the lake, you'll see all the trees, and that part of the water is green, where it's reflecting green trees and mountains, and you can see the snow caps and everything in the mountains and all the rocks. And then above the mountains, this way coming towards you, the lake appears to be blue. Well, it's reflecting the sky. That's not the whole reason, but it does reflect the sky. So if you were to, knowing this, if you were to get up in a ship and go outside of the earth and look back, what color would the earth be? Because they're showing us pictures and they're saying, oh, look, it's like a marble. It's all blue and you can see these white clouds and making it look like marble and this deep blue, right? And the planet Mars is red. That's not true. Go out some night and look up in the sky and see if you can pick out the red star. You'll be able to find Mars that way, right? It's supposed to be red. Nope. It isn't red. It's just a star. It just looks like a star. You wouldn't be able to distinguish the planet Mars from any of the other stars unless you happen to know where it is. And then if you really looked at it, even with a telescope, you're just going to see a star. Look at the moon. Now I know sometimes when the moon's in the day, you can sort of see the little, looks like gray. It looks gray. But that's a little different because, our light is refracting and changing everything. But if you look in the middle of the night at the moon, it's a bright, glowing white. Just glowing. Because the light refracts. And when you're in the dark and you look at something that's lit up, it's just going to be this glowing white light. All the stars are white. All the planets, even the moon from this distance, when you go out at night, it's just a star-looking thing. It's huge. It's a big moon, but it's white. It's not red or blue. So you won't look at the moon and say, oh, well, it's just all white, so therefore it must not be any water up there. You see, all of the stars, whether they're sources of light or whether they're reflecting light, it's always white. The only way that you're going to find that light can refract is if it goes through some atmosphere or through a crystal. You know, you can take a crystal and refract light and make different colors. That's why when it rains, you get a rainbow. But if you're just looking at a flashlight, it's white. You say, oh, I got a blue one. No, only if you got a blue lens, right? Okay, so Mars isn't red, and if you got back and look at the Earth, it's just going to be a star. It's not going to look blue. Now, this alone proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that they think we're stupid. And they're probably stupid, because I know there's some scientists. I've seen quite a few of them. And there was this guy, it's like at NASA, one of these important scientists or something. And he was describing how silly it is that people don't believe we went to the moon and stuff. And his explanations, this is supposed to be some scientist that graduated all the best universities and he's the most important scientist and everything. And he's talking about all this nonsense. And I actually think he believed it, because it's just propaganda in his head that he's been taught. The whole world's lying in the power of the wicked one, friends, and we're being lied to. All those pictures of all the stars that you see out there and these nebulas and everything, and I want to tell you something. Look it up on the internet. It's a fact. They don't advertise it, but you can find this out on the internet. All the pictures that we've ever seen of outer space, whether it's stars, nebulas, or the Earth, it's been doctored, photoshopped, and digitally enhanced with color. There is no color. So, I don't think they wanted us to know that they were digitally enhancing the videos and enhancing the color and stuff. But of course it got out. People knew it. You could see it. And when people start talking about it, they say, oh yeah, we do that. But but in reality, it really is color. We just, we're not able to capture it quite right. So we have to enhance it just to let you know what it really looks like. What do you mean? None of this makes sense. The point is that it is irrevocably proven that all the pictures that we've had of the Earth from outer space have been put together and enhanced and photoshopped, color enhanced, photoshopped, and everything else. It's not a real picture of the Earth. And the one that they took coming back from the moon was literally overlaid onto the picture. It was a fake. The whole thing's a forgery. Now, there's a reason. Now, if our government is forging all of the pictures of outer space, imagine this. You say, well, they can't just get pictures willy-nilly, Dave. Come on, give them a break. Well, okay, supposedly they've got some little robot ship on Mars taking all these pictures of Mars, right? But somehow or another, on the way to Mars, they couldn't kind of swing that camera around and take a look at the Earth, right? All these probes that are supposedly out there beyond Jupiter or somewhere, it's passing Saturn now. Well, let me see some pictures, right? We ain't got no pictures. Well, it's all digitally enhanced, and we're just, it's just giving us information. It's not for your eyes. It's only for the scientists. See how the lies is just getting thick. But, however, that doesn't mean that a person couldn't possibly float around out there. It would take so long to go anywhere, you'd end up dying out there. You can't go the speed of light. And even when they're using just the speed, maybe 600-700 miles an hour or whatever they're doing, it takes them years and years and years and years just to get out to one of the planets. And that's even if they're doing it. And I don't think they are, because if they were, they'd be sending us pictures. They'd be like, look at this, we got pictures. They don't have any pictures. Just, so I think the Mars pictures are probably just either digitally created or they're pictures of Nevada or something. I don't know, but these aren't real pictures. But the ancient ones, like in the Sumerian tablets, they had ships. What were they? Well, they had to be, certainly I believe they came from the planets that they say they came from. But remember, there's a reason why you would probably need a ship. Because, for instance, look at the devices that we're using, the phone, television. Okay, we're able to see another reality through the phone, to create movies, right? And get sucked into these movies, all right? Now that's a simulation. But we're also using these contraptions to speak to somebody we don't have to go anywhere. We just can talk to somebody halfway around the world. So certainly with more advanced civilizations, you can create ships that would maybe go through wormholes, so you wouldn't have to travel the speed of light, because with God all things are possible. And with our mind, with faith, everything is possible. And with technology combined with our mind, there's no telling what we could do. But it would not be by simply getting in a ship and flying out there. Now, is the earth flat? I'm going to show you once and for all you flat earthers, watch very carefully, because I'm going to prove to you. And if you don't accept this testimony that the earth is not flat, then you're simply not willing to accept truth, reality. You're living in a delusion, because I'm going to show you something. Watch very carefully. This is the earth. Oops. Made a pretty good circle. All right. Now, on the earth, we've talked about this in other videos. You've got the equator. Okay? You've got other parallel lines. These are called latitude. And above the equator is north latitude. And below it is southern latitude. This is the equator. These are imaginary lines that we've been having on these maps for a long time. And this is one of the meridians. These are all meridians. And then you've got another imaginary line here that we call a prime meridian. Now, these are all parallel, the latitudes. The longitudes all start at north and end at south. So they'll go like this. These are the longitude lines. So what's interesting here is that there's a certain amount of space between here that never changes. And then the last one's up here is called the Arctic Circle, and there's the Antarctic Circle. But these are straight and parallel lines. The reason that they have all the north and south longitudes this way is because the sun comes up here and goes down here. So the lines and since the sun goes all the way around, there's no one point anywhere on the globe that you could that's east. Because if you go east, you keep going east, you go all around. So there's no one point, so they have to be parallel. They go forever, infinity. But when you're going north, there is a point that is north. It's not parallel lines going north, but there's a point, and it's the North Star, the pole star. And so all the compasses point to the North Star. So therefore, anywhere you are on this latitude, if you're trying to go north, you're just going to go straight. You're just trying to go straight to the pole. That's north from wherever you are. Right? No matter where you are around this globe, if you're going to go north, you go straight north. And so therefore, it's going to go around like that. And this is then the meridian lines that give us direction on our map so that we know where we're at. You can measure the distances between each of these meridians. We know exactly how large the earth is. It's 8,000 miles through, 24,000 miles around, 25,000 miles around in both directions. We can circumnavigate the earth. Now, here's a fact for all of you flat earthers. There's this thing going on in the internet that nobody's ever taken an airplane and gone over the Antarctic. And that's completely not true. There have been many flights across the Antarctic, not just Admiral Byrd. And even today, there are still commercial airlines that fly across the Arctic. They go into the Arctic Circle a little bit. The reason they don't go right straight directly over it, most of the time, it has been done. But number one, twin engine planes, it's too cold down there. There's a lot of winds and a little, it's unsafe to take a small plane. You've got to have a large plane like the size of a 747, and because it's dangerous. But there are commercial airlines that go. At one time, there was a commercial airlines that went pretty much over the Antarctic, but they stopped doing it. Now because first of all, so South America's here, and maybe Australia's here. Well, the quickest way is this way. There'd be no reason to go directly around and over the Arctic and then up this way. So it's just not practical. There's no land masses down here. That's the reason why there's not a lot of flights. Everybody's saying, well, the continents are up here and all the flights are going back this way. Why isn't somebody going this way? Because there's very few continents, and the ones that are down here, they're going like this too. Ain't nobody need to go around the bottom of the earth like that. But that doesn't mean it's never done. Just look on the internet and you'll see how many flights, how many times people have gone. There's hundreds of people that have, thousands and thousands of flights that have crossed the Antarctic. That proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that this is not flat. Because wouldn't somebody else have noticed that there's a bunch of missing, it's millions of miles and it's supposed to only be 1,000? Amelia Earhart flew over the ocean. People have gone all around the earth and nobody's ever said, oh, down here in the southern area, something's going on because they say it's 1,000 miles from here to there. But it's really like 5,000 miles. We ran out of gas and died, It doesn't happen. People have been circumnavigating the earth for thousands of years, and it is what it is. They've got the meridians. They know how to calculate. They take a little compass. They know where the North Star is. They travel. They've gone all around the world. This happens all the time. It doesn't happen as much down here because most of the continents are up here. But people have navigated this part of the world. So it's not flat. It's just not flat. Look it up on the internet. Don't just assume that when people tell you that nobody's ever flown across the Antarctic that it's true. They have. So according to the flat earth theory, and there are some people that have found this out, and they've tried to come up with a different scenario. But most of the flat earthers say that they go by the UN logo for their map, which is kind of crazy. Just because the UN has a logo with the North Pole at the center and the South Pole all the way around doesn't mean that they're trying to tell us something. I mean, that's not science. That's just a kind of funny little, ha-ha. But it doesn't prove anything. But let's say that they're right, and the North Pole then is the center. And the South Pole then, down here, this would be the center, and you would fillet it open like this, and then you would lay it down on the flat earth, and we're living on this flat earth with the North Pole in the center. That would mean that the South Pole was all the way around like this. We can easily prove, and I don't know why people reading the internet and sucking this in doesn't just take a look. Go to Google Maps, put your cursor on it, and right-click it and say distance. Calculate distance. And you can calculate the distance on Google Maps from here all the way around, and it's 25,000 miles. You can count it all the way around this way, and it's 25,000 miles. You can count the Arctic Circle, and you'll see that, or say the Antarctic Circle, if it's supposed to be flat, it would just be 25,000 miles around. You can count it on Google Maps, the distance from here to there. It's exactly what it would be from here to there. The Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle are the exact same size because they're the same latitude. You can go further in and make a smaller circle within the Arctic Circle, and it, like 1,000 feet around or whatever. It doesn't go forever, like they say. Just inaccurate. It's just false. It's actually so false that somebody's got to be doing this on purpose. It's got to be a fraudulent argument because anyone can look this up. But people who don't do the evidence for themselves, they just read an article, they believe this. So not only that, but if this was the Arctic Circle around here and it's a flat Earth, then in order to go around the Arctic Circle, you'd be going around like this. 25,000 miles, and that would mean that no ship has ever went around the Arctic Circle. And that's insane. No ship could ever go 25,000 miles thinking it's only a couple of thousand miles. Nobody would, hey, it's only supposed to be 2,000 miles. How come it's like a week and we're still going, in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Oh, we've got no way to tell, but we're just going to assume that it's 2,000 miles, but we've been going for months. we run out of gas, whatever, but we're not going to tell anybody. This is never going to get out because, of course, they own the media. Come on, they own the media, but they couldn't hide something like that. First of all, think about this. These calculations that we've been doing, that I can do today, that many scientists are doing today, are the exact same basic calculations that they did in the days of Aristotle. Aristotle and other scientists of his day calculated the curvature of the earth, how the distances, they calculated how far the stars. Every one of these scientists for thousands of years would have to be working for the same people. Now, see, I'm a conspiracy theorist myself, and I don't trust government. So, I heard somebody say the other day, well, why is it you don't trust NASA? Well, maybe it's because they did 6 moon landings that were absolutely fraudulent. And they faked the whole thing. It was supposed to be the most important thing that mankind's ever done was go to the moon, right? A large step for mankind, the most important, thing we've ever done. According to Kennedy, right? We're going to make this big technological move and we're going to go to the moon and this is going to be so great. No one's ever done this before. Yeah, they've been coming to this planet from other planets for thousands of years. But they just, I'm sure Kennedy probably didn't know. The hoax probably was on him. Because he, just like Trump's not really running this deep state, it's the people with all the money. It's the Orsinis, it's the, Rothschilds, it's the Medicis, it's these people that are running the world. So, they can tell Kennedy, yeah, we went to the moon. And Kennedy would say, really? Okay, I believe you. They've hoodwinked us all. They did not go to the moon. Now, that doesn't mean, though, here's the thing. You've got to understand why they faked it. Oh, and by the way, if you try to get the actual footage of all of this moon landing and stuff, right to NASA, and they'll say, oh, well, we've lost it conveniently. It's gone. We don't have it anymore. Right. Okay, it's just a big. If our government or the ones in power in this world, if they faked 6 moon landings, then you don't have to believe anything else they ever do. They need to prove to us, and we need to see some pictures of the Earth from outer space. Now, ever so often they'll show us a picture and say, well, this is a real one. But how do we know? That's the thing. Okay, I know people are like, well, what do you mean, how do you know? Come on, just believe it. I mean, come on, why would they be lying? Because they lied before. And because the people who put these videos out admit that it's CGI, that it's all colored in and photoshopped. And you can see it's photoshopped. And on the way back from the moon, supposedly, the last time, they took a picture of the Earth rising, and it was completely photoshopped, and the Earth was superimposed over on the picture. We can't believe. Now they've got, supposedly, a shot of the Earth, 22,000 feet in the air. The Japanese are doing this, and they're showing us a snapshot of the whole Earth, 22,000 feet in the air, every 10 minutes. And then they have it on a fast speed, so you can see the clouds moving, and it looks real. Take a look at it. It looks real, okay? But the background, the Earth is just like superimposed onto a black screen. There's no stars. You don't see any stars behind the Earth. There's nothing there. It's just a sort of a dark gray screen with writing on it. So somehow or another, they've cut the Earth out and superimposed it on a black screen. I'm not saying you couldn't do that and it could still be real. I'm just saying they're going to have to prove it to us now, because they've already lied to us too many doggone times. What I'm saying is that there's something they don't want us to see, because they're just making these pictures up and doctoring all the pictures. So something's up. Something's up. But remember, this is the age where we can produce movies like Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever, Avatar or something. They could easily have faked it. So why would the Japanese be in on it? Because The Japanese don't own their own government. We took them over in World War II. Who took them over? The United States? Not you and I. The people with the money, the banks that run this country, that run the economy, they run their economy too. And the only people taking pictures are people with billions of dollars. They're financed by the Rothschilds and the Orsinis and these money bagged families. And they are perpetrating frauds on us. Think about the fact that, if you do a study on whether this drug is good for you, the scientists say, yep, it's good, we tested it. Of course, these scientists work for the Rothschilds, or the Medicis, or whoever it is that's financing all of this. They work for them. They own it all. They've got a monopoly on the media, on the government, on the agencies, on the NASA, they own it. They finance it. Supposedly the government invented satellites, but now Google's got control of it. Who's Google? There's a Jewish man that owns Google. There's a Jewish guy that owns Facebook. Who are the Jews? They were converted. They came from Babylon. They don't even have a home. They're just like nomads, right? No, they're just moving their government in more of a central location and getting more and more control and colonizing us and keeping us dumbed down. They're telling us lies. Why? Because they want us to be controlled. Now, does this mean that the earth has to be flat? No, it could. Does it mean it's got to be triangular? Why flat? If the earth was flat, that would be the most absurd thing that you could imagine. See, the scientists back in the days of Newton and Copernicus, they didn't work for the Rothschilds. They're intelligent. Calculus is real. So they weren't in on it with them. You see, there's another family in this world that's working for us. They're the ones who write the books in the libraries and much of the science. Not those who run the religion, but those who run the science, those who made the Constitution, they're for us. See, so you've got to understand that just because a whole bunch of people that run our government is lying to us doesn't necessarily mean the earth is flat. And you can prove that the earth is not flat. So I'm not upset with somebody who says, well, I think the earth is flat. But I don't, this movement is going out there to the world and it's discrediting the truthers. Because if we're going to have something that we want the world to know, we need to have that be true. We don't want to, tell the world things that's not true. So yes, the ancient ones came to this planet in ships. However, you can't do it with a metal, iron, tin, aluminum boat, propelled by rocket fuel, because you can't go the speed of light. It's impossible. You'd become light. You'd burn up. You'd take years and hundreds of years to get to the first planet. You can't do it that way. They had other technology, which is because of the fact that we live in a hologram. And physical matter does not exist in physical. There are ways around that you can travel in a way that's not physically traveling and get to point B, because these points on the map are simply coordinates that you can put into a computer and be somewhere, because it's not physical. Remember on Star Trek, they would warp into another warp, and they would go, it says they were going faster than the speed of light. Well, you can't do that. But what they're really saying is you go into a warp speed means that you're going through a wormhole and you're not you're not traveling through the physical space literally, because there is in reality no physical space. It's appearing to be physical to our senses, but in fact, molecules don't have physicality. They are energy and forces. So there is other ways to fly, but it's a far advanced type of technology, much more advanced than anything that we know on this planet. There are probably one of the reasons why they're faking all these pictures and they're not showing us the earth from up above is simply because if they did, you'd see all of these ships from other planets coming and going. You'd see the cities on the moon if they showed you the moon. If they showed you actual pictures of Mars, there'd be cities there. And they can't let you see that. So they just do it in a studio, make you think that, yeah, everything's fine. There's nothing out there. We're the only ones here. See, they're the ones trying to get us to believe that we're the only ones here. In fact, the ancient ones have known the truth. If you knew that, you'd just go back and read the stuff in there in the Sumerian tablets and you'd learn something. But you'd read esoteric wisdom. You'd find out that this world's a hologram. You're in charge. Mind over matter is true. You're being imprisoned here. They don't want you to know that because it's like people in the jail cell and they don't want you to know where the key is, right? They lock the doors, okay? That's what's going on, friends. You've got all these people saying that everything in science is completely wrong. Just think about it. You look up at this moon and it's round. It goes waning and waxing, comes up in this area and goes down in that area, and every morning it comes up in this area. Yeah, it moves differently than the sun because it's not in the same track. And it reflects the light from the sun. This is what they tell us. This is what the scientists have known and have told us from beyond the days of Aristotle, from the days of the Egyptian line of kings, from the Sumerians 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. They've been telling us the same thing. The Sumerians in their books tell about the rings on Saturn. They tell us about the asteroid belt. They were there. It is real, friends. Okay. The conspiracy is that, oh, that Sumerian tablets, that's myth. That's the conspiracy. No, that's really the truth. And really, the scientists are the ones who said the earth is round when it was the church run by these Orsinis and the Medicis and the Rothschilds, the church who wanted you to believe it was flat. So you flat earthers are trying to take us back to the days of the Dark Ages when the church ruled and it was superstition. So now I want to go into another little interesting little tidbit. Why then do we have all these grids? Well, for navigation and so forth. But let me run something else past you. Have you ever gone? You've seen the movie Star Trek, right? Next Generation, and on this Enterprise, because they were always flying 365 days a year, flying across the universe. They didn't have any recreation, any place to rest or relax. So on the Enterprise, they had a little room called the holograph, or the hologram deck, or I think it's called the holodeck. Anyway, it was a hologram room where you could go in. It was just a room about the size of this living room, a little bigger than this living room. And when you would go into the room, before they turned it on, there was all these lines, parallel lines going up and down in this square room. And you would say, computer, let me go to Mount Everest or something. And there was a program for that, and it would click on, and boom, you'd be in Mount Everest. And everything about that would look as real as if it, it looked just like it's real. But you were just in this little room. Now, you say, well, how in the world could you climb a mountain in a little room, right? Well, because every movement that you make, you could go around and around in a circle, and in that room, you'd be going in a circle, but in your mind, you'd be going thousands of miles on this trek, because it gives you sensory perceptions that says you're going in a straight line, when in reality, you're going in a circle. That's a simulation. The world we live in is not a simulation. It is reality. We really do live in this type of world. And this universe is an illusion. The physical part is our thoughts that we create. There is scientists have said that in the center of our galaxy is the thing they notice is called the black hole, because it says that in the center of the universe, it seems to be just sucking in all this matter. Anything gets near it just sucks it right in. And in fact, it's so powerful. Like even our Earth has gravity. It sucks in. We stick to the Earth because of this gravity. Well, they claim that when the mass keeps pulling, it eventually gets so heavy and The mass becomes so great that the gravity becomes so tremendous, it starts sucking more and more, and finally it even sucks light in. And they say that anything that gets sucked into that black hole would literally become extinct. It just, whatever's sucked in there, it's gone forever. Well, that'd be looking at a television, right? And saying, oh, look at this movie. Oh, this is wonderful. And somebody goes over and trips on the cord and unplugs it. And you're like, oh no, the movie's gone. It'll never come back. It can't come back, right? The Bible says you can be resurrected. Scientists say that's impossible. Because they don't understand that the universe is a hologram. The physical is not the reality. It's the spiritual. It's the mental. It's the principles. You are not physical. You are spiritual. You are principles. You are mind. And everything is created in the universe through the Word. So, what's in the black hole? When everything's going back into the black hole, is it erasing everything? No, it's simply turning off the light, unplugging the television, and the program stops functioning. You don't see it anymore as physical reality. Just like on your television screen, you have like ones and zeros, 1 1 0 0 0, 1 1 1 1 0 0. That's a code that tells the screen what to put up there. Well, how does the screen know how to put it up there? It's got to have coordinates. And this is what we call pixels. Today, we have a very, very, certainly going to be a rudimentary simulation of the reality. But it's still based on the same principles. In order to project the universe, or to create the universe with your thought, with light, the light goes out and it has to be projected onto a screen. So today we have television screens that have all these. We've gone from plasma. Well, originally we went through from luminous bulbs and stuff like that. And now we went to plasma, and okay, now we're doing this thing where we got these pixels, and it's based on something like this: lines, parallel lines going up and down. The reason for them is so we have a coordinates, and so each of the lines intersect, and that's a coordinates, and they call that a pixel, which that just stands for picture, and L, yeah, a picture of God. And so, a point of existence, a point of coordinates. And so now the program knows where to place that part of the picture. But you see, the universe is much more complex than just television. Because all we've ever been able to do in our world so far to simulate the universe is to do pictures and light. What we don't know is that the universe is sending out more than just light. It's sending out all the variations and variables. It's sending out vibrations of different kinds. Light is only one form of energy. There's also sound, smells, touch, and all of this stuff. We have not been able to simulate an experience where we receive all the touches and the sounds and and all the nuances of light. But we're just a body, living in a body, perceiving the energy with our senses. Electrons going through a circuit that becomes aware of certain principles that aren't physical. In our world, we just make a screen, a television screen, and then we have these lines, there's coordinates, and it sends it up there in the program, and it puts it all in place. But in the universal realm, what we've got is we're individual thinkers, beings, who we have a body that can receive energy so that we can perceive other people's energy, other variables to the unit, to the whole. And so in order to understand light or knowledge or sound, we have various different organs that control different energies. This is why the ancient wisdom has 7 chakras. Those are energy centers. This is why the planets, look at the sun, it's really bright, right? But then the planets are not quite as bright. They're different kinds of energies. And we have 7 subtle bodies, meaning that these planets in the universe are actually part of the hologram, part of the machine, because everything in existence has its own energies. These are the gods that project upon the world and create the reality. We're also gods who have also the same exact replica of the universe, and we're able to interact and learn, and we learn from each other. You see, I hear people saying, well, you know, the pictures with the turtle and the 4 elephants on it, it just represents a torus. The earth is in the shape of a torus field. But a torus, you've got to understand science better. You can't just in this one generation understand more science than all of the scientists all the way back to Aristotle and Pythagoras. You haven't done all the research. You're just working on half the research because you can't get all of the research for yourself. And you're not thinking this through. It's a religion for you, and you're a fanatic on this. Now, I understand why you're a fanatic, because they've lied to us. But let's calm down, because the earth is round, friends. But this torus field, see, represented by the 4 forces of the 4 elements, the turtle is a slow animal. It's talking about the slow rotation of the earth through the galaxy. Everything represents something. And I've heard a lot of people who go into this and say, oh, well, it's just symbolic. You know, they really believe the earth was flat. It's symbol of the earth is flat. That's what the turtle shell means or something, you know. And the 4 elephants mean this is the pillars that the earth is, you know. So we believe the elephants are symbolic of some sort of stationary earth. But that's not what they're symbolic of. They're symbolic of the 4 quarters of the earth and the 4 elements that establish and hold up the physical reality. It doesn't prove that the earth is flat by any means. You've got to understand symbolism. And so a torus field is definitely true. They taught about it in ancient times, and scientists today understand the torus field. You know, that's this, like a hurricane vortex. That's what gravity actually is. That's what a hurricane is, a torus field, right? Everything is sucked in at the bottom, goes around like that, and at the same on this side. Well, what they don't show you is that this field goes all the way around on all sides, all the way around. And the energy is coming out at the top. That's why we have the aurora borealis, the light that's coming out at the top of the earth at the North Pole. We have a southern borealis, Australialis or something they call it. It's because the negative and the positive and the negative poles. And that's the magnetic field that's around the earth. And it's not, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, there is certainly a debate in science as to what gravity actually is. I have my own theory that gravity, and I don't want to get into it today, and I don't agree that gravity is exactly what Einstein said it was. Those are just theories, and we can manipulate these theories just a little bit and learn more about, you know, there's certainly things that we don't know. But to just outright say that the earth is flat is ridiculous. However, there are lots of things that they're lying to us about. And we're going to talk about some of those things in this video. But if the earth was flat, just think about it. That would mean, what they're saying is that the sun is only like, I think they're saying 3,000 feet in the air, and the moon is 3,000 feet in the air, or something like that. That would mean that there's no, when we have the eclipse and the moon eclipses the sun, it's not helpful to speculate about things that we don't understand and then make dogmatism, just like the church was doing. No, you got to believe in this. See, no, we need proof. We need proof from the scientists, and we need proof from the flat earthers, and they haven't provided it. Now, I understand a lot of flat earthers aren't saying that they believe the earth is flat. They're just saying they don't believe in the government, and I agree with that. There's a lot of stuff that's not true that we're being told. But there's a lot of stuff that is true, that we've determined over long periods of time. However, science is improving. We're beginning to understand now that with experiments, scientific experiments that our scientists are doing, if the sun was only 3,000 feet in the air, there isn't any scientific way that it could be heating the entire planet. Because you see, we've got this all worked out with the fact that light is an energy that vibrates the molecules and heats up the earth and refracts and makes certain rainbows and light and all of this science. But if you're just saying that the sun is just up there in the sky about 3,000 miles or 3,000 feet or so, whatever they're saying, that would mean that this powerful, bright source, right, that the ancient ones talked about that said was God, was just this little, it's just this little baseball running around on a string. That would mean the earth is much more, if we're really being influenced by these orbs, the gods, wouldn't they be far more? The sun is supposed to be life-giving. It's dynamic energy. It is, we get all of our life from the sun. When that thing comes up and you stand in the sun, it'll burn you to a crisp. And I know you can stand in front of a furnace and get burned, but we're talking about radiation. We're talking about ultraviolet light and gamma rays and X-rays and some serious light. We've got this science all figured out, how light travels through space. And, since it doesn't shine on anything, we don't see the light as it's traveling from the sun to the earth. But when it strikes the earth, it excites the electrons and protons and all of the vibrations meet. And it begins to excite the vibrations and it gets hot. So you can't discount all of the science that we use to understand, the rate to which something is warmed up at a distance from a particular wattage of heat, or a brightness of light that's diffused over so many feet through so many. All of this is science that is being used. This particular science that we believe in today is being used by not just scientists, but by people who make your heaters, people who build cars, airplanes. If you don't believe in airplanes, I think most of you have been in an airplane, and they're flying way up there, but we can't put satellites in the air. No, buddy, right? That would be impossible. Because the earth is flat, so we don't need satellites, right? Because a radio wave will just go forever in a flat earth, Come on, we don't need this. We can go out at night and look up in the sky and see the satellites going by. Okay? Now, true, they might not be what they say they are, and sure, they should be taking pictures and they're not. They're doing a lot of fraudulent stuff. As I said, that's because they don't want us to see what's really out there. Because they wouldn't want us to know that there's ships coming to this earth. Now, just think about this. Einstein has a theory, and you've all heard of it. It's E equals mc squared. Now, if you're a flat earther, you are saying, that's just some made up formula. Have you ever heard of Boyle's formula? People use it. People in the air conditioning units, manufacturing companies. These are, these factories that put out electricity for you. You flip the switch and you get electricity. They understand a little bit about electronics and light. They've made light bulbs. Look at your television. Look at this phone that we're using nowadays, and the technology to send radio waves through the air. They know something, but this E equals mc squared is saying that they didn't just invent this in a minute. It was on the backs of scientists for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they were speculating as to what really is matter and what is mass and what is gravity. So he came up with E equals mc squared, which means that light, the speed of light, is constant. Everything is made of light. Light holds all of the information that makes everything else. He didn't understand so much that it was not. They thought at the time that matter had particles, that it was real, that it was substantial. Now we're discovering that it's only real when you look at it. When you don't pay attention to it, they've done scientific studies where if they're not looking at the molecules, they're just waves of energy and they don't have physicality. But when you observe them, they turn into a physical reality. So this proves that what the Bible said and what ancient Eastern religion has said for thousands of years is that this is all an illusion. However, it does act on scientific principle. This is what Newton talked about, his principles. See, any object going in a certain speed, at a certain velocity, is not going to change its speed or velocity until acted upon by another object. These particular axioms are principles. They're not physical. They're principles or concepts that are laws of the universe. And we have proven them over and over again in scientific experiments with boats and ships and planes and telephones and satellites. All of this stuff is real. They're not playing around. So E equals mc squared means that matter is light warped, because light is constant. But the more you warp that light, see, it refracts into colors. Well, it also becomes mass. And mass has gravity. It pulls. And the more mass, the more gravity. And this is where they come up with the idea of black holes. There's so much mass, they can see the light actually going into these black holes. It's just sucking everything in there. They understand a little bit. Have you ever seen pictures of the galaxy? What do you think is happening there? It's all swirling around like this. And there's this big ball of light, this dynamic energy. You think that's just up there about 3,000 feet just floating around? Just like the sun is, dangling on a string above us. This is ridiculous. We're not living on a flat earth, and the galaxies exist. They can see Andromeda from here, which is a long ways away, but they have means to detect it with gamma rays. It's not the same as light waves, so it's not going to take a picture the way you would normally think of it. But you see, they have scientific means, and this doesn't mean they're always right, but it means that they've been working on this for a long time. Some very smart people like Newton. Newton studied the emerald tablets, friends. He translated them. He was into the ancient wisdom from the Egyptians and the Sumerians. He was in the mystery schools that was learning this esoteric wisdom. And a lot of you think, well, that makes you suspicious right away because you think that's all the occult. But you've been lied to by the church. They're the ones who told you don't listen to the hidden wisdom, the esoteric wisdom. Oh, the earth is flat. See, they're the ones trying to deceive you. Now, I want you to understand there's no way you're ever going to know everything about the universe and whether or not this is a lie or that's wrong or whatever. All we know, though, is that we're living in a universe that is very, very, very different than what we have believed. And no, the earth is not flat. And it acts as a round sphere. However, the reason why we see the earth as a sphere, because remember, Einstein says everything is relative. As we understand it today, with our limited understanding, we see everything as a sphere. However, if everything around us is just simply an illusion that we're creating with mind, with superconscious mind, and we have conscious mind, which our conscious mind cannot manipulate the world. That's why we have to have faith. We have to reach that superconscious mind in order to actually change our circumstances. And scientists are doing work with this too, and they're finding that mind, you ever heard of placebos? You give somebody a placebo, tell them it's going to make them well, and they get well. See, there's studies that are being done to show, not only in that regard, but in scientific studies that they're doing that shows that molecules are not particles, they're not solid. And this is where I want to talk about faith. And perhaps in the next video, we're going to get into that. My camera is about out of battery, and it's going to just shut off here in a second. So I'm going to probably cut it short here. But we're going to find out that a lot of things that they've been lying to us, but they don't know any better. They don't understand the universe. They're doing their best, some of them, to understand, but they're really just not aware that they're coming all the way back around to this ancient wisdom that was taught to us from the ancient prophets. It's been there all this time. They understood it. But there were individuals that had this information at one time that were trying to manipulate this, keep us in the ignorance so they could rule over us. And they've been keeping us in this false reality with this false knowledge and all these things that they're teaching us and these lies to try and keep us stupid. And that's why we've got to learn this, so that we can not be stupid, so that we can be enlightened. We can take control, harness the potential. We've got to know what belief is. Because once you understand what belief is, then you can actually use it. And just as a little hint, we went through a whole bunch of videos, a whole series about miracles and prayer. But I want you to understand that when you understand this, what we're talking about, then you'll begin to understand what it really means to believe. It doesn't mean that you know. So if somebody who doesn't know that their prayer is going to be answered can't just miraculously know it. It's not about that. Only thing you will be able to do is understand the workings. Believing just means having a concept. You don't actually have to strain, or there's no technique to believing. We believe things all the time. Everything that we believe is what our world around us really is. It's just that once we become aware of this and we become aware, see, it's just like this science that we were talking about, where they say that particles that are not being watched or observed are just waves of energy. But once you observe them, they become particles. They become reality. Reality then, your prayers are going to become reality as soon as you pray and then observe and watch and keep awake. As soon as you forget and go on to another prayer or another idea through the lusts of your flesh, you're just constantly wanting things and you're not aware of what's going on. And in your ignorance, you don't understand that you're creating your own reality, and you get into this vicious circle where your thoughts are dangerous and they just keep coming back onto you like a loop. And you're not aware of this. Once you begin to realize what the universe really is, how we are living in an environment that we're creating along with everyone else. We're all helping one another. We're all one. And we've got to live as one. Your well-being has got to be as important to me as my own well-being, because we're all in this thing together. And once we begin to understand the universe, see, and not be duped in this ignorance that they're teaching us, once we kind of break out of this and we start to realize the potential that we have within us, we begin to understand what the Bible means when it talks about love, when it talks about spirit, and it talks about flesh. It tells us a story of how this deception got started, how these beings began to enslave us, how the devil is a deceiver, and how we have to believe and wake up. And then we can practice this and we see that it works. Everything that you believe is going to happen. You just have to learn what it means to believe. It doesn't mean to be in this panic. So I believe. See, my phone's just about ready to turn off here in a second. Well, it's, I believe, oh Lord, please, please, please. See, you've got to relax and just understand the principle that whatever you're thinking and believing is going to happen, not to worry. See, and your mind will find a way to make what it is that you need if you simply keep holding that picture. And if you could hold it very, very steady, you'd have things quickly. But because we are lied to and prone to doubt, there's going to be things that are going to keep coming up into our, vision that's going to give us some doubt. So we have to keep telling, get thee behind me. And hang on and just know that whatever we think about with intent and with love is going to happen. Be faithful and just keep persevering in your prayers. We're going to talk more and more and more about this. We're really going to get into this, this aspect of it, because this is where it's practical. Where we need to understand this is because we need to understand that we're the creators, that we've got control. Jesus said you can move mountains, you can pray, and you can do. This is what the whole message is about. We need to be well. We need to be whole. So let's talk about that in the next video. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It's David Vose. Have a good one.